Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No problem. Tell me when you're ready, Harley.
Let's wait 15 minutes.
We're live, Mr. Chairman.
Wait, why does it say no file? Wait, is that it? It's not moving. I'll record.
And we are live.
Okay. Welcome to the August 9th, 2021 Painesville Township Zoning Commission meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Okay, John?
Here.
Bailey?
Here.
Daryl?
Here.
Amy, who's absent? And Chairman?
Here. Okay. Did we get any general inquiries from the public, either for the public hearing or for the general inquiry? Harley?
No, Mr. Chairman. No.
Okay, so we have none. We can go, so I'll call the regular meeting to order. And we had the minutes were mailed to us and emailed to us of the July 12th meeting minutes. If the board had a chance to look at them, and if any corrections or edits or would like to be added at this time. Hearing none, entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Second.
John made a motion and Daryl seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Okay, Daryl?
Yes.
Amy, who's not here. John?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
And Chairman?
Yes. Okay, we have a public hearing. Public hearing number 1 on case Z21 ZC02. It's amendment to propose to remove section 6.02K and related remaining sections thereafter. Staff report on the case, please.
Mr. Chairman, this amendment proposes to remove an unenforceable regulation within the resolution.
And the township has no jurisdiction on firearms, correct?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that's the reason why we have to do this.
Yes.
Okay. Is any questions from the commission on it, for the staff? Having no questions from the staff, legal, no questions at all?
Nope.
Hearing none from the public, entertain a motion to close the public hearing or continue it.
Make a motion to close.
I have a motion from Bailey to close the public hearing,
Second.
second from John. Any discussion on the closure of the public hearing? Hearing none, roll call, please, on the closure.
This is for 21 ZCO2? Okay. Wait, I'm sorry, who's the motion?
I motion, John second.
Okay.
Bailey made a motion to close the public hearing for case Z21 ZC02.
Okay. Amy, who's not here. John?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
And Chairman?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to open up the public hearing now for case 21 ZC03. It's a case to add section 31.03 as an F as in Frank. Staff, please, report.
Mr. Chairman, this amendment proposes to reinstate or re-add the prohibition of roosters on parcels less than 5 acres. It was previously within Section 31, and when we had a pretty significant amendment done to this section, this was omitted from that amendment unintentionally, and so we're just correcting that.
Okay. Okay. Any questions of the commission to the staff in regards to this case? Why we're doing what we're doing? Adding this prohibited prohibiting roosters on less than 5 acres? Hearing none, entertain a motion to either close the public hearing
So
or continue the public hearing.
So moved.
To close?
Yeah.
I got a motion to close the public hearing, and Bailey seconded it. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Okay, Bailey,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Daryl,
Yes.
Amy, who's not here, and Chairman.
Yes. Okay, we have no architectural or site plan reviews. We have no new business. So now we go to old business. This is very old. It's case 20, not 21, 20, ZC07. Been around for a while. It's draft number 8 of the section 28, a rewrite of the sign section. We were, Harley gave us a copy of the revised text that Richard and Harley and Jason worked out. We got it at last meeting, at the end of last meeting, and requested that the commission members read it, take a look at it, and we can go through it today, how we want to do it. So if it's okay with the commission members, what I'd like to do is go page by page. If anybody go to page 1, anybody has any comments? If they don't, we can just move on to the next page. If they do, we can talk about it. This way, now unless somebody has an objection to that, this way, anybody has objections that way? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and go through it and see if anybody has some changes. I got a few, but we get to them, we'll get to them. So on page 1, anybody have any changes to what we proposed, what's proposed by staff by page 1? Okay. Go to page 2, which starts at section 2806. Basically change with abandoned sign. Hearing no comments, we'll go to number 3. Basically by grouping signs and changing electronic message center to electronic message display. Any changes here? Hearing none, we'll go to page 4. There's not, oh, page 4 is 1, same thing. Message display. Next page. Okay, next page. We have 2, 1 in transition, electronic message display, but hierarchy of regulation serviceability. I had a question, I'm not sure what I mean by that. In section B, 2807B, maybe I didn't read this right. What is it, we're talking about part of a parcel in any premises located within the jurisdiction of Painesville Township, which is not enclosed by the walls of a building or structure. What was the revision for, and why are we saying what we're saying? I didn't understand that. Maybe you can enlighten me, 'cause
So, I'm assuming that Rich had done that revision just to add further clarification. Because it previously said, or all exterior surfaces of properties. So, mounted and displayed on any or all exterior surface of properties. So by revising to any portion, part, or parcel of any premises located within the jurisdiction of Painesville Township, it just further clarifies our meaning of exterior surfaces.
see, I'm not sure what
Yeah,
we're meaning here.
I think the concern on that language was it might be reaching into signs that are inside somebody's home. You know, like you put a sign up in your window. And I don't, at least if I recall my conversations with Rich, I don't think we have any authority to regulate what somebody puts in their window.
Correct.
So
Has-
we were just making it clear that it was outside signs.
Has to be outside the outside exterior of a business or a house.
Correct.
Okay, maybe I'm being too brain dead, but, could we maybe word it a little bit differently? Or is it worded, and you feel, Jason, enough that, I'm just kinda confused a little bit, and I just wanna make sure that, I'm
Yeah.
easily confused, so, I mean, I just wanna make sure that, you know,
Now, I'm sure we could tweak it and make it clearer.
if there's something, someone we, I don't know, I'm not sure how, okay, so what we're related, it pertains to exterior parts of the building or a building only, not something can be viewed by a window from inside. So can't we just say, see, you lose me when you say, or all exterior surfaces of the properties, and then you go in and say, which is not enclosed by the walls of a building or structure. So, I mean, I understand, Jason, what you're saying, but I wish there was a better way to what you said. We could tweak that a little bit, make it a little bit more clear what we're really talking about there. I'm not looking for a loophole, I'm just trying to make it more clearer for somebody.
Is there any-
And I'm taking notes too, as we go through, I'm taking notes, so I'll,
Okay, thank you.
I mean,
Any
Yeah,
other
I'm-
questions on
I
this
mean,
page?
it seems like we
I'm
can
sorry.
probably just lop off that end phrase, not enclosed by, I mean, if we're talking about exterior surfaces, to me, that's clear what exterior is. It's the opposite of interior.
Yeah, is there, other than a sign in the window, is there anything we can do? Like the rest of this, we can just put something about a sign in the window is acceptable or allowable.
Yeah, I mean, I think even if we just refer to it as exterior, I mean, 'cause if you're putting a sign in your window, that would be interior.
Interior, you
it's
can't,
inside the walls of your home. So,
that's not, we can't regulate, we can only regulate what's outside. And, the thing with what was struck out of the section was, or all exterior surfaces of the properties. Then that came, so I mean, I would be, Jason, if we would just say, if we put back portion, part, or parcel of any premise, or all exterior surfaces of properties located within the jurisdiction of Painesville Township, period. Like you said, drop that last clause, say, from which is not enclosed by the walls of a building or structure. I'm not sure. But Harley, if you could work with that with Jason and give us something for that, please. But I understand where you're going to with that, and I think what Richard was trying to do, but it was just a little bit ambiguous for me.
and the
Okay.
one thing that I would also like to point out, on the same page, the definition for window sign, a sign that is painted on, attached to, it, or suspended directly behind or in front of a window. Now, we have a definition here, and I have been looking for any regulation in regards to window signage, because if we are regulating a window sign,
Mm-hmm.
this could be contradictory, this section 2807B could be contradictory to whatever regulation we have regarding window signs, because window sign is described as something that is either on the outside or the inside of a window, which we just discussed, we have no authority to regulate. So there's another complication, just to note, and if anyone happens to see any regulation regarding window signs they're going through and could point it out.
Okay,
I
I
would
guess what I'm looking
appreciate
for,
it.
just make some clarification on it, and we can get back to us, next meeting. That's okay with, if that's okay with you. Okay, next page. Starts with C, 2808C. I guess my question to this one is, and I apologize for jumping in, is, so, we're prohibiting people having, like, those inflatable guys, like,
Guys with the,
Yeah, like the, one over at, always at the, tax place is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, these inflatable objects, but it would include those dancing guys as well as any inflatable holiday decorations, I'd assume. By definition of inflatable object, so we would be prohibiting all of those things, yes.
And we're not talking about flags. And I do agree with you about the string of lights. I'm keeping that allowable.
Okay, so
For me, that's from me only, that's my opinion.
How does this affect, the fairgrounds, and that, are they exempt? You had that big old cow up there for the fair.
That's, well, it's not a balloon, it's not a banner,
It's inflatable.
it's inflatable. Inflatable objects or string of lights shall be prohibited, or string of lights. Yeah, if we let, yeah, that's a good point. If we leave the fair, have their mascot, which is that inflatable cow. How I know that is because one of the guys who works with us, with me at the county, he's on the fair board, and that's their mascot, okay? I always kid around with them with that one, but that's their mascot. I could see somebody, a tax place, has that inflatable guy dancing in the wind. If we tell them, you can't have that at all, but we're allowed to have the fair have it for a short period of time, that's not there permanently. I wonder if there's some wording we could put in it that, allows that for a short period of time. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just throwing something out, Joe, you make a good point.
Well, the thing of it is, they're gonna look at it and say, well, you're letting them do it.
Correct, that's what,
That aspect, if you don't allow inflatable, then the fair board can't do it.
correct.
What are we
That's-
trying to avoid with this, just having something like that up all the time? Or,
Is there any reason why we don't want them in the first place?
yeah, that's my.
I mean,
why
if
do we-
it's-
Why do we
If
care?
it's drawing attention to
I think
somebody's
what
business, I don't know if,
What I think was getting at here, the ones that go up and down and wave back and forth, they are a distraction. The cow standing there, I don't have a problem with people putting up, a blow-up thing for Halloween or Easter
Yeah.
or Christmas. I don't have a problem with those. They're there, they're rather nice to look at.
I
And-
guess that, yeah, to kind of piggyback on that, do we have a problem with the lights, strings of lights either? 'Cause they don't really pose a distraction.
And those blow-ups, they got light inside of them, and
Yeah,
they're not that bright. They're just enough you can see them.
I don't know if I'd ever look at it as a distraction. I mean, yeah, you do look at it. And as it's waving around, I mean, but has it caused accidents, or is there any other reason why?
Well, the other thing too, I mean, if it, the only possible thing reason why you want to prohibit, one that moving around, would be if it would be in such a manner that would go into those flow of traffic, but that one, I know for a fact that one out by Palmer and 20 is not, it stays within, that place doesn't go into traffic at all. I don't know if really, and I agree with, and I side with, an inflatable objects, like at Christmas time, people have those inflatable, Halloween,
yeah.
the
like
Halloween
globes and
displays,
everything.
you have, turkey or pumpkin displays during Thanksgiving, they flip it over to Christmas, you got the Snoopy thing, you got the ornament bell, things like that, and whatever. They're not moving around, they're still, like the same thing as the cow.
Yeah.
So,
But a lot of people look at that cow, so it's distracting them from the driving, so.
but
if you
we
wanna-
haven't had a big,
So are the signs along the street, that, for that matter, telling you the business,
Yeah.
can be distracting.
yeah, you can, okay, so, yeah, so anything can be, anything, depending upon, anything can be distracting if you follow it, you go with it. So, I'm not sure, balloons, banners, pennants, ribbons, streamers, inflatable objects.
I mean, not only have bouncing houses and everything else, that's, you know, and yards and.
I
slides
understand,
and everything
I
else.
mean, if you look at people like, one of the neighbors in my subdivision, they had last 2 weeks ago, they had a graduation party. Or if you have a party, they had balloons in their mailbox. Tell everybody where the party was. Now, if you go by this, they do that. I mean, that could be a
If
violation.
that tax place over there has a Uncle Sam, and he's standing up there, and he's not really saying anything, there's no signage on it,
Right,
does
it's
that
just,
falls
yeah.
in the same rule?
So,
Patriotic?
I mean,
Yeah.
Harley, is there really what was the purpose of banning, say, the streamers, the balloons? What was the purpose of that? Distraction for the driver?
I will say that it's been a long time regulation. It's in there right now.
Okay,
For the banners and ribbons and all of that. I think a lot of it has to do with maybe car dealerships. I think a lot of it, even the string of lights, I think stemmed from car dealerships and them causing maybe a blighting effect at one point in time because that was the look. And similar to the way that agricultural uses, and this is just my assumption, I wasn't there, I don't know, but agricultural uses, the reason why they were so heavily regulated is because someone at that time was just, this is absolutely not okay, we don't want this, let's make all the animals have to live inside the building sort of thing. And now we're recognizing that it might have been over-regulated to prevent one specific situation from happening. But I can't think of anything within our zoning or within our comprehensive plan that might say that we should
or should not?
regulate this type of, well, prohibit or allow this type of signage. And again, we could, as opposed to prohibiting them, we could just write in here, and as opposed to shall be prohibited, we can say shall be permitted as temporary special event, something, and then put a number on it if the commission chooses, or if the commission would like to separate them and say, okay, these things are okay all the time, we don't mind, it's, and these other things we will regulate on a temporary basis, we'll give them so many days out of the year that they can utilize, I don't know.
Yes, I understand that. Jason, is there a point in, let's talk about streamers, balloons. I'm throwing the worst case scenario out. Let's assume, take the case that we do not prohibit these items. We let it go, okay? Then we get something that's really outrageous. So, I mean, I'm guessing that by doing this, and I'm gonna go back to the analogy that you made on the agricultural, Harley, that if someone wants to be outrageous with this and be a real distraction to the drivers or whatever the case may be, that one entity, whoever that may be, do we really want to penalize everybody for that one possible situation? And Jason, if we say somebody has, let's say we don't do this, we don't prohibit this, we let them have it, and then someone goes, let's just say goes outrageous on something, balloons, streamers, whatever the case may be, and the real distraction. Is there somewhere we can regulate that, or go into maybe do I don't know, you understand what I'm trying to do? Exception to the normal, like the fair's, normal situation, the fair, holiday displays, normal display, but something that's totally abnormal. I'm not sure how to rate or how to do that, or, because because somebody would take that, and I understand where, I think where Richard's coming from, was something, somebody could just go crazy, and we have no say, so like, Ampo, AKA our next case, coming up, about that non-conforming sign. So, or, I'm just throwing it out.
I mean, not, not if we had some language we could point to that stated what they were doing was a violation somewhere. I mean, if we didn't have anything that said, you know, regulated banner size or number of balloons or, I mean, you could always, you know, a lot of legal stuff he likes to use phrase like reasonable, but what does that mean? What's reasonable to me might not be what's reasonable to somebody else or vice versa.
Exactly,
So you kind of get
exactly.
an ambiguous, you know, regulation if you go that route.
What was that? I can't remember the exact wording, there's something about welfare and something that, do you recall using that word in any place?
Safety.
A few years ago, there was something that came up and they were saying that it's like where you can't have aesthetics, you can't rule, you know, a lot of things like that, but this was talking about, I'm not sure if it was safety and welfare or welfare or something, but
It's the welfare of the traveling public, it's like we always, that's something we put in there all the time, a catch-all phrase.
and the string of lights, I forgot that used car lots used to have that light,
Yeah.
you know, but now a lot of restaurants do that, you know, so.
I'm wondering, so this is not limited to residential versus business. Do we want maybe different regulations for each? 'Cause like, we may not care if a house has a big blow-up globe at Christmas, but, you know, if you're driving down the street and a business has a bunch of blow-up stuff, we might, you know, it'll probably not ideal.
Do we just strike it, not worry about it, or let it go, or what?
I mean, if the concern is traffic, is these things being a distraction to drivers, you could tie it to that, shall be permitted unless it causes, because at least that way it's clear what it means and it gives me or whoever else is sitting in my seat something, you know, well, was it, if we violate somebody, they could say, well, how do you know it was distracting? And we could point to, well, there's been 3 accidents there since it happened, or you could just get testimony from people, yeah, I drive by that every day, it always catches my eye, it's, you know, at least it gives you something to go on. I mean, I don't think it's a great solution, but if that's the concern, I think that's how we would have to try to address it. I mean, unless you want to get super specific and say you can have 6 balloons, you can have a banner that's no bigger than, you know, this by this, or,
It might have been safety and welfare, but which would take in the traffic problem or.
yeah.
And I don't wanna get into sizes, cause I don't wanna hardly have to have a tape measure with her every day, and go out there and say, this is 21.45, it's only supposed to be 20.0, you know, so.
But as long as it's okay, as long as it doesn't interfere with
And
setback or something.
So, do we, I guess the rewrite is in here. I guess I guess way E originally was done, and correct me if I'm wrong, Harley, it was the, stuff, the letter, the wording in red is new. Or am I wrong?
No, the wording in red is new.
And then and you took out the exception, I saw that, which is fine. I saw about the string of lights exception. To me, if you're gonna have exception of string of lights, just let string of lights go, not have them prohibited. I know people have residential flags must be fly, I don't know, what does the commission think? You want, leave it as proposed, or just leave it go and like, the first sentence, which is lettering in black, is what was existing. So we just do we just leave that alone in this section? And not do the revised wording? Or not? Or do you want some time?
I'm
to
just
think about
wondering if we should just leave the whole thing out. copy?
Yeah, I was just saying, proposing, just stop it, prohibit it,
Yes.
and maybe,
Do they, searchlights, they used to use sometimes, are those included any place? You know, where they
Uh,
put a searchlight at, arc
yeah,
beams up in the air? and
we
they
violate that
usually go
inflatable
around.
thing every every
No, actually, wait, maybe, hold on, maybe it is, now let me think.
It may be under lighting or something, but.
whatever,
Balloon,
whatever.
what do you call 'em?
Mm-hmm.
That was some of the questions I had.
Like I said, what's your pleasure, or you wanna think about that for next meeting? Wanna move
Come
on?
back, another thing, let's
Good?
bring that back and take a look at it.
Okay, take a look at it, Harley, and see if we can come up with something that either, I hate to prohibit it or give it as an as-is based upon size or shape or something. I think I'd like to word this section here, excuse me, as an effort, in such a way that, thinking like the fair. I mean, I think that's the big thing about, think about, is the fair and the holiday displays.
Yeah, that's the first one.
I think those are the two big ones. I mean, banners and pennants and ribbons, I don't know.
What's the rule if you enforce a township or a county? And I know that Metro Parks, when they opened Penitentiary Glen Reservation down in Kirtland, were a violation of sign for Kirtland City, or Kirtland,
It's a city.
I'm not sure if that was in the village or, but it was
It's a city.
city. The argument that with the park said that because they are a separate entity by law, they have separate taxes and everything else, that they could not enforce Kirtland rules.
Enforce their thing.
But they made an agreement that they took the sign that was oversized and moved it back away from the roads that looked smaller, and then they dropped the court case. So, but it left a lot of people believing that, if the county or the parks wanted to do something, they could have a big balloon out here on the part that goes through Painesville Township. And could you enforce it?
John's actually correct in this. The government entities are immune to local regulation. They don't have to, but they should try their best to meet our requirements. But if any part of our requirements are hindering them in any way, they don't have to meet our requirements. So I'm not sure how that relates to things like temporary signs. I know specifically for buildings and things like that, they don't have to meet our setback requirements or our minimums, maximums, and things like that. Maybe the state of Ohio allows them to do signage as well. I don't know, honestly. Do you know, Jason, if that's applicable to signs?
Well, the issue we'd have is because we're a township and we're not a home rule township, all of our zoning stuff is technically a criminal offense. And I don't think we're gonna be able to charge Lake County with a crime.
Yeah, I thought county and stuff like that was exempt. Some
But-
ago, they said there was an exemption for that. I'm just saying what.
Yeah, I don't know
Told, but I'm not sure if it's
specifically,
true.
but
There actually is, there's a, I'll send it to you, but there's like
Yeah.
a legit legal thing that protects them and they don't have to, but they,
They
yeah.
usually do.
yeah, they usually do out of courtesy, but.
Yeah,
but
to finish that story up with Kirtland, they had also said, all right, so now you have all these buildings in Kirtland that belongs to the Metro Parks, that you're depending upon a fire station that's part of city property. So if they're gonna respond to a fire, or do you wanna just have your own fire department too? So there's a lot of things that start working into that when you start thinking about all the implications of where your boundaries are and things of this nature. I'm not really sure. I used to say, Tim Cannon, when he was here, said that, if there's a question on signage, he'd rather have somebody else go to court and spend their money. So he sort of backed off sometimes on it because of that, so.
Going back when I first started working for the county, zoning was one of the first things I got wrapped up into besides house numbers. And I did some asking on some of these things because I didn't know. I never even heard of zoning when I started working for Planning
Yeah.
Commission, but I learned very quickly. This stuff with the tenants and that largely was done for aesthetic purposes and for the safety hazard to both automobiles and pedestrians. And that's basically what it was all about. That, you know, the way they were doing it looked like a great service. And it cheapened the county, or the township in some ways. I'm just telling you what I was told.
Yeah. I remember when they argued and people that had race cars that they had to work on at home and in their driveway, and the neighbors didn't like it because it was noisy and not trashy junk laying around. And they said that was a hobby, they couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And if it went to court, most of the time zoning lost. So. I guess I look at zoning laws as my rights, your rights end when they start infringing upon my rights. So, but if you have something like this right here, and you don't have a good reason for safety or health or welfare, then maybe we should not even do anything with it.
So what I'm saying is that maybe we could,
I just see that somebody's trying to simplify something here.
yes.
That's what I see. Question is, do we want to simplify it that much?
Well, the question, I guess the question is, first of all, if you read the first sentence, everything gets prohibited. Except for the section, if you read down further, except for flags, well, flags is taken out. So anything, exception is string of lights,
Right.
depending upon how far away it is from the thing. Now, could we, now how about this question now, could we say they are allowed as long as, see, if you read this, if you read it, say, display of the balloon banners, blah, 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 or shall be prohibited. If we say they are allowed, and then say the last sentence Harley has in there, exception made to the string of lights on buildings or trees or shrubbery in all zoning districts will not be placed within 20 feet of a road right-of-way or 10 feet of any side property boundary or 25 feet of any rear property line. Could we just say, go something like that, say, we're not gonna prohibit them, we're not gonna prohibit these items. However, what we're going to say is, please have them not close to a side or rear property line or, near another building. We're saying we're not gonna prohibit them from being on your property. We're just going to regulate where they're at your property, so much from the side, something similar to what Harley has right here for the string of lights. Similar, I mean, I'm throwing it out to you.
You know, I guess we still have the issue of like balloons on the mailbox or something with that. That's
So,
why I was wondering, do we separate business and residential?
A business in Palmer will never have, if we did that, they'll never have one there because he'll never meet the 20 feet from the, right of way. He's right on the right of way.
No, yeah, not just that specific business, but another business can do it still, right? So if we said if you're residential, you have to be within something, and then business has to be farther away, it may accomplish what we want. 'Cause we're worried, I think every example we've been, we're worried about a business putting a sign up that's gonna distract somebody. We're not necessarily worried about somebody putting a big huge sign in their front yard. And somebody could do it, sure, but if we have some sort of residential offset and then make a business offset
Mhm.
bigger.
Commission members, and Harley, what do you think about that?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to add to that. One, what I have written here in my notes is that one of the main concerns is an inflatable sign's ability to distract. And what we could do is specifically regulate inflatables and require setbacks and a maximum number of inflatable type signage in commercial districts as well, so we can address what is perceived as the potential problem type signage,
Mm-hmm.
and then let the rest of them go for special events and say, okay, you can have pennants and ribbons, balloons up for a certain special event for, I don't know, 3 days, 4 days, whatever is deemed most appropriate, and as opposed to limiting them to so many days per year, we can just say, you know, you can have so many days per special event. There are a lot of different ways that we can,
Mm-hmm.
Have you looked at other townships or, I mean, I'm sure you have, but, are there any that's this tightly woven as far as prohibiting?
I feel like we're probably one of the most heavily regulated townships. Concord is coming up right behind us, but now that they're home rule, they're gonna have a lot more, so really, there's no one comparable to us anymore. So in township standards, without the home rule factor, we are definitely the most heavily regulated and restrictive.
Yeah, we don't really enforce it too much if, I mean, there are some things that we put, that I see that probably aren't, could be enforceable, that we don't seem to care about too much unless somebody complains.
Yes, yes. Specifically to that, I was looking at 28.08K. No temporary sign shall be placed on the front or face of a building or on any premises except as provided for in this section. And I believe in this section, all we permit is one banner as a temporary sign. However, if you've got like a grocery store that has a sale going on certain produce, those signs go up and they're tacked to the outside of the windows, and we definitely don't enforce that regulation.
What's a snipe sign?
I think that's that sandwich sign. I don't know, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Let me Google it really quickly.
It's one of the defined terms.
Yeah, there's a
beginning.
definition.
I think it's on like a tree, like signs on trees, or, I don't know.
A
it's
temporary or
defined in
permanent
there.
sign tacked, nailed, posted, pasted, glued, or otherwise attached to trees, poles,
Well, if you think
stakes.
about it for a minute, let's go with temporary signs on trees. When you see people have yard sales, they're right on telephone poles and trees. You know, technically they're non-conforming. What I don't wanna have, what I'm afraid of is, and I don't wanna get into this thing, but what I also don't wanna have to happen is, I wanna put up Christmas inflatable toy, or whatever you want, Halloween, take a holiday, I'll call it a holiday inflatable sign, whatever you wanna call it that, display, all that. And I don't wanna have to come into the township every single year and get a permit or get a permission to do it. Because, or my neighbor doesn't like me, and I put one up,
Every time you put it up.
and then they're gonna come in here, call Harley, and then she has to investigate because I have something up there because my neighbor doesn't like it. And I gotta take it down, and that would just, and I don't think we need that. Cause if you think about it for a minute, and Daryl's right, they're gonna look at that fair thing and say, and nobody says a word. And that's one of the things that I was reading this, was during Fair Week, and I was going, wait a minute, you know, I just saw that, so. is there, I guess what I'd like to do is come back to it in a month. Harley or Jason can maybe give us tackle it a little bit better, see what we can come up with. You understand what our thinking is right now at this point, and see if we can come up with something that's more easable, palatable, I guess. Anybody have any questions or more comments about this section? If not, we'll go to the next page. Oh, Daryl?
No,
Okay, next page. Harley, A2, where it says the road right-of-way line is 30 feet from the center line of a dedicated road. However, there are exceptions in Painesville Township. So why put in the regulations is 30 feet, and then the next sentence, next part of the sentence, you say, but there's some exceptions.
I think what Rich was trying to prevent phone calls, actually, because it is a common question that we get. But I feel that it should and could be redacted.
Mm-hmm.
So I will, 28.09 A2.
I just say the word right away in the
Just for right-of-way, period.
period, because you got some ones where it'd be 25 foot in from the center, or 25 foot over the whole right of way. I know a couple places where that's at,
And you got some roads I know in Painesville Township are 40-foot right-of-ways.
yeah.
So it's 20 foot. So I just say sign must not, like I say, Harley, I agree with you, just stop it right away. Sign must not be within the road right away, period. And leave the rest go. I agree with that.
I had a question on
Hold on.
2810.
Okay, we're there in a minute. Harley, is there any reason why we have, okay, you can put a temporary sign in, say for a yard sale, 24 hours prior to the start of the sale. But 2 hours after the sale, you gotta have it taken down.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's, should, I
Let's do 24 and 24.
mean, if everybody don't have a problem with that, just leave it go.
I'd do 24 and 24 hours or something afterwards. Or 12 hours afterwards or something.
Well, as I say, it starts at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Maybe
So
like
you
to
wanna
have a
put-
lot of
you
people
wanna
come to your
have
house
sometime
after a
during that
sale's
day,
over with.
within a 24-hour period.
Yeah, but if it ends at 6 o'clock at night, you have to have it down by 8?
Yeah, that's what it says. Wording is, it has to be done by 8. If it's done by 4, it has to be done by 6.
Right, so that's what I'm saying, should we just do 24 hours before and 24 hours after?
Yes, I like to go, that's what I was thinking,
Oh,
go
okay,
24,
yeah.
24. That's okay, anybody,
Yeah, I
anybody have a
agree.
problem with that? Let's go with 24 and 24, please. Daryl, it's A6.
Half the signs stand for weeks,
Right,
and the sale's over.
Yeah. All right, Daryl,
And,
and 10.
yeah, there's a couple of things here, and I'm gonna bring a section in that's not here. And it's a question I posed. In section 1, we took out the arterial and substitute a public. We're down to 6, you have an arterial again. Frontage on an arterial dedicated, it's a public dedicated road right away.
yeah.
Oh, I see it.
It's not part of the things that we're changing, but to keep consistency to what you're doing on 1, pretty much have to do it on 6.
6 should, yeah, take arterial out and put public.
That's the only thing I had on that one.
Okay. Anybody else? If not, let's go to next page.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Oh, sorry.
Chairman, you did,
Um,
21.10A6?
2810A1, you took out the arterial road right away and put it as a public road right away, okay? When you go to 28A6, last second to last line.
Oh, I see it,
Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Especially, you know, you've done public and the other,
Now, you gotta be
and
consistent.
arterial's kinda hard to define sometimes.
Okay. Next page. Here's we're getting some, okay. Harley, you were talking about, as we were leaving last meeting, in regards to these, starting to get these sign sizes, right?
Yes.
And I read that, and I read that next section, and then I kind of like skipped over all the way to get to the sign sizes. So Harley, why don't you explain to us why you feel, and I'm kind of leaning that way, of going away from these strict signs and something more simpler? Or is there a reason why, maybe Jason can tell us why we have to go that way?
I personally just feel that it's too confusing. It's convoluted. There are words in there that don't, that you can't define straight across, or terms, the primary copy area, and then the distance from the front wall to the opposite side pavement edge, which I don't understand what opposite side pavement edge means. Sidewalk, parking lot, roadway, this side of the roadway, the opposite side of the roadway. And then all of these additional calculations, the primary copy area by the following formula, PCA equals parentheses, LH parentheses squared parentheses 25 parentheses divided by 144 times 1.5. It's just, there,
A little much.
it is quite a bit. It's quite a bit, and I understand we want to be able to, the ultimate goal is to be able to provide adequate signage for buildings that are set far back from the road or that have maybe a much larger facade. But there are significantly simpler ways to do this. Like in that first wall sign table 28-1, you've got the speed, you've got the environment, simple, complex, or multi-lane. You've got the letter height in inches, 10 to the first, 12 to the second, which honestly, me looking at it as I'm supposed to enforce this, I'm looking at it and I'm telling you, I could not tell you what size sign you'd have to have
That's why I'm not a zoning.
just looking at this table. And anyone else that's trying to, a small business owner that's trying to figure out what they need to do and what they need to abide by would look at this and just not have any idea. And so, my thought is that there is a much simpler way to do this. And Rich is absolutely phenomenal, and he's extremely intelligent, and I know he knows what this means. I know he does, but for more simple-minded folk, I've seen regulations done that permit for increased sign size based on distance from the roadway as well as facade, and it made sense. So that's my opinion. I hope you guys agree, only because I have to sit there and try to explain this to people.
In other words, you're looking for a KISS method.
Do you ever get any complaints on signage like that? Like, I'm thinking of Giant Eagle on all sides, even facing the freeway there. Because it sets back, you allow bigger signs.
And we don't currently. So every sign we see that is larger, we've had to approve by variance, and all of them have been approved. And so it's really just a matter of us buckling down and creating a regulation that just permits it, because we already know we're going to. If anything, it creates a a hazard in people not being able to identify what the building is because the sign is too small for how far away from the roadway it is.
Or directional, like, where the restrictions are
Mm-hmm.
at,
Yeah.
so, it's kind of, I guess it's another, all right, up on Route 84 where where they sell the sheds and that sort of thing, they put signs up all the time for different things, you know. Lumbers, they sell lumber, they sell wood, they have special sales, they have all kinds of different things like that. Nobody says too much about it, I don't think.
Mm-mm.
Doesn't really hurt anything, but it's probably not compliance with our rules and regulations on this area, but,
No.
of course, that was not compliant anyway. I mean, it was supposed to be light industry there or whatever, so,
Yeah.
but, you don't get too many complaints on things like that, though.
About the signs being too large, or?
Well, at one time when we first started looking at wordage and our zoning laws and stuff, we asked for a report on what kind of cases went to the Board of Zoning Appeals. And then we found that we wanted to start addressing some of these, why they always go, we put out a rule that said without going to the appeals on it. And I'm just wondering if you have a lot of complaints on signage that you really don't, or if you don't, then maybe some of the signage goes the other way, or nobody's concerned about it.
Oh, yeah, so, actually, I don't think, I've gotten one complaint regarding signage. It was temporary signage, and the gentleman that was complaining because Rich had approached him and made him remove similar signage, so he was
Oh, okay.
calling to say, hey, well, what about this guy?
Yeah.
I've actually never, let me. I did get a complaint about the temporary signage for Tractor Supply, when that was first going up, that like rectangle board, but that honestly might have been a trustee as well. I don't think I've gotten complaints from the general public about signage, no.
And they haven't had too many cases that went to the zoning board of appeals then?
We've had quite a few, so Tractor Supply did for their signage, because their signage exceeds our maximum, which I think that says a lot. When you're looking at Tractor Supply's facade in particular, when you look at it and you say, that was too big for what our standards say, then you just, it kind of puts into perspective how small our maximum is. At least that's my opinion. Just looking at Tractor Supply, it makes perfect sense for it to be the size it is in my mind. I think it with its setback and the facade size, but they had to get a variance for their signage. The Planet Fitness got a variance for their signage. Giant Eagle got a variance for their signage. And Bed Bath & Beyond, I'm assuming they did. Right now, they're redoing their facade. They exceed the square footage by a lot. I think they're more than double. So,
Okay, Harley, how about this? If there's no objection from the commission, just remind me, folks, if I go a little crazy, we're still not done with this page. But Harley, if we take a good look, and I understand what you're trying to do, and I do agree with going very, like we are right now, very, with the size and this and that and everything. You could maybe draft for us what your thought process is on this item, because this will take care of this size, and then we go to temporary sizing. Then the last part of this section is that chart size, sign chart. So, I mean, I'm looking at that item as maybe take a look and give us what your opinion is, would be, you'd rather like to see in that, because quite frankly, I know this is where Rich was going for, but Rich is not here, and he's not the one gonna have to enforce it. You're the one gonna have to enforce it, or you or your, and/or your assistant, whenever you have one, whenever you do. So I'd rather, in my opinion, have you look at it, and if you want to make it a little bit easier and less cumbersome with all the little details, as far as I'm concerned, and unless the commission has a problem, I'd like you to come in and give us what your thoughts are on that.
Okay.
I'd appreciate that. Now, anybody have any problem with that?
No.
Okay, before we go off this page, I'll be not being my due diligence, Mr. Webster.
I was having a problem with understanding 3. I know it's not something we're dealing with, but I think I answered my own question. It's talking about multi-unit building or multi-unit building twice in a row. May be identified by one or more. It has to do with a freestanding sign per street, right?
What section?
3.
Number 3, in the same
The
section.
same section.
We're in wall signs number 1. Daryl's in number 3, freestanding signs.
Okay, one
I
moment.
just have a
Okay, there we
little
go,
trouble
freestanding.
Understanding that, no,
Maybe
I'm not sure there's a
identified.
better way to say it, it's just I wanted to understand what it's driving at.
This is the same bit, Carly, with way Richard wanted to try to define numbers wise, and maybe you can take a look at that as far as, how you want to approach it with, your distances, stuff like that. Cause I know, similar in the township, we have zoning setback rules and setback signs and all that good stuff, and then maybe go with that flavor, or something like that. But I mean, the freestanding signs and that would work on that one as far as, where Rich wanted to go into detail, like this 1 foot for every 100 foot or whatever the case may be, maybe take a look and see if we could make it clean up and make it easier for 2 things. Number 1 is make it easier for you to enforce, but number 2, make it easier for me as a resident of the township that I want to erect a sign on my property, whether I'm a business owner or I'm a homeowner. I don't have to figure out, I don't have to be a math major, figure out exactly where I can put my sign at and conform, or not conform. What I don't want to do is put a sign up and not conform because I'm off 2 feet or a foot, and my neighbor doesn't like, again, neighbor dispute, and you went through all this trouble of getting that. So,
No,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree. It seems like this whole section kind of falls under the same rewrite, I guess, for lack of a better term, but they all kind of have the same measurement and exactness to it, which I don't think is necessary.
Yeah, I'd like to make it easier and simpler for A, us to enforce, and B, for me to, who doesn't want to non-conform, to conform.
Right.
Don't want to cause a problem. If my neighbor don't like me, I've already applied, and it makes it easier for me to comply. I want to comply, make it easier for me to comply.
Right.
So I think, Harley, that's the way we'd like to go with that, if you don't mind.
Okay.
All right? That takes care of this page. The next page is, unless Daryl has something crazy on next page, I had nothing on that page at all. The top of the next page is still in the details of the feet and everything. Harley, if we could take a look at that in general. Okay? Next to the last page, folks, is, I had no problem with it except for the wall sign table, which I thought we'd try to make it a little bit more easier, if we could, Harley. If we can.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. Well, not even try. I know I'll be able to, once I get the moment to do it. The new hire starts on the 16th.
And that's fine.
But once I get the moment to do it, I know I'll be able to. I've seen resolutions that base their calculations strictly off of setback and facade size, and it works.
Yes.
This takes into consideration the speed of the road and all sorts of things, which is incredibly precise. I'm just not sure it's entirely necessary.
I think that's something we could take a look at, and, you know, we can look at that when you're ready to give it back to us. And, I mean, and like I said, I think I'd like to have it enforceable, also it'd be easily for somebody who wanted to comply.
Yeah.
Okay? I'll tell you what I'd like to do is, Daryl's out for a minute. And unless he has some objection to another section in here, I'd like to move on, if you don't mind, to the, address the disposition of any closed public hearing, which is the number 9. So we closed 2 public hearings. We need a motion. Yeah, we closed 2 public hearings. We have 30 days to either A, make some changes, or B, we have 30 days from today to send it to the trustees for their review and public hearing. So what I would need, if it's okay with the commission, I would need a motion for case 21 ZC02 to be submitted to the trustees for this is our recommendation for trustees for consideration as submitted to us tonight.
So moved.
We have a form of 3. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
It's 3 out of 5 we can,
Yeah, we can wait, Sorry.
I couldn't remember what that was.
Are we going back to the old business when he comes back?
We see,
Are we going back to old business?
well, when we close the public hearing,
No.
I'm sorry.
I got that, just when
Yeah,
he
we go
comes
back if he has a problem. You have-
number section 7.
Okay,
we
let's
skip-
go back to it.
No. There's, on the old business, there's another item,
Oh.
amendment to section 7.
Thank you. What an idiot. Thank you.
You have.
Well, I'll tell you what. Before the meeting, I was talking with Harley and Jason. We were in here while you were waiting. We're waiting for people to come in. And there's nothing we can do right now on this case. And the reason being is because I think what Rich wanted to do can't be, as of right now, enforceable. There's no legal way that or the business, I'll let it go, has a sign that's deteriorating. So, and it's a non-conforming sign. So the business had a non-conforming sign that was deteriorating due to the elements, due to age, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Well, they wanted to fix it, and get rid of it, and put it up same size and everything. We, township zoning, said, no, it's not conforming, so if you take it down, then you put it back up as a conforming sign.
Yeah.
They didn't want to do that. They just wanted to repair what they had. They didn't want to they wanted to tear it down, put it up. So they came back, found a loophole, said if it's environmentally, the reason why it deteriorated is because of the environment, they don't have to destroy and erect a sign that's conforming. And at the time, and Jason couldn't find a reason for us to say no to that. That's what precipitated this amendment number 7. So this might be a case where we'll have to wait and see how things go. And I apologize for that, and thank you for bringing that up to
Oh,
me.
okay.
And and wait for Daryl to get ready here. But I mean, that's why we're gonna move on. I mean, that's why.
So is that case still pending, or has it been already decided?
It was never a case.
Or never came to
So
court?
under Ohio Revised Code, for non-conforming uses, you have to provide in your zoning resolution reasonable means to reconstruct the non-conforming uses. And the statute uses the word reasonable. So what exactly you have to provide, I couldn't tell you, because ultimately it will come down to a judge or a jury as to what they think is reasonable. So in our zoning code, we allow the reconstruction of damaged, non-conforming uses that are caused by fire or the elements. And Rich and I got into a very long email exchange about this issue, because ultimately what caused the damage to the sign was rust, just caused by water. So ultimately what caused the damage was water. And I couldn't go into a court with a straight face and argue that water is not an element, because it is. You know, I've seen Captain Planet. It was one of the rings. So I don't know if Rich's idea was then to come back and adjust that, I think it's section 7.03 of the resolution because Rich's argument, and I understand where he's coming from, his argument was it was elements like a severe thunderstorm or a tornado or an earthquake. You know, that language didn't encompass everyday wear and tear living in Northeast Ohio. But a court wouldn't read into that. A court would take the words that are in there, and if it's not ambiguous, which it's not, they would apply it as written. So that's what our kind of misunderstanding came down to, you know, and maybe he's right. When it was initially written, maybe that's exactly what they had in mind, but that's not what it says, and a court is going to apply what it says. And ultimately, to me, that would have been their argument. Hey, it was water that caused this. Water's an element, therefore, under 703, we're allowed to rebuild this. And then, I mean, additionally, even if 703 didn't apply, so let's say it wasn't caused by an element, well, we'd still kind of be in trouble because now we're not providing any means, reasonable or not, to rebuild a damaged, non-conforming use. And Ohio Revised Code says we have to, so.
Quick question. Could we, sorry, and it just came to me, sir, but could we rewrite it as an act of God? Destroyed by an act of whatever that language is. I've seen it used before as a destroyed by
Snow or
hurricane,
wind or
snow, whatever,
yeah.
or other acts of God. What is the definition of that? The legal definition of acts of God? But anyway, could we basically
I don't
just
know.
say something like that and it still be,
I mean, I have a hard time advising on that because, like I said, Ohio Revised Code says we have to provide a reasonable means to do these things. You know, is that reasonable? Maybe.
I feel like it's reasonable.
You know, maybe it's not. But, you know, ultimately, anytime in the legal world, you know, a phrase reasonable is used, it's really that's either the judge or the jury, depending on whether it's a bench trial or a jury trial, what they think is reasonable. And it might not be what we think is reasonable, or it might be, you know, but as far as advising you on if we do this, yep, it's rock solid, I don't even think that's possible.
Okay.
Okay, so what?
I think it impacts upon a lot of other zoning rules and regulations too. You know, if you have a building that's not being used and it was a garage before and they repaired cars, but now somebody else wants to go in there and you say, well, now it's changed or something, you have to tear the building down because it's falling down anyway. I mean, how many times is there going to be a sign that rusts away or wind blows it over? Or
Yeah.
something like that, you know, I think it impacts a lot of other rules when you start looking at it that way, but.
Well, yeah, Daryl, do you have any, let's go back, Daryl, to, the case, under the sign section. Do you have any other, changes? Harley's gonna look at all the different ones that have the, specific,
That was all I had.
yeah, and she's gonna look at that and see if she can rewrite it a little bit, a little more easier, okay?
Yeah,
All right,
I mean, this thing about calculating the
yes,
signs, that is very convoluted.
Right, so I think we're gonna try to see, she's gonna come back with us and get something a little bit more easier to, for us to look at, and for two things, for her to be easily enforceable, and be easily, if someone's comply, they comply, okay? She's come back with that with us. Okay, also while you were gone, we were talking about, on old business, section 7, we had non-conforming sign. Is there a way, Jason and/or Harley, to give us something that we could look at, Jason, that you could think that would be dependable in court, based upon that situation? That, you could come back with us and see if we could, there be a possible rewrite of section 7? I wouldn't mind just leaving it open, under old business right now, and keep it open, and see if you can come up with something. And if you can't, then we'll just have to drop it, as the case.
Yeah, I mean, if I was the ultimate arbiter of what was reasonable, then we definitely could. But I mean, like I said, that whatever we wrote there, whatever changes we made, would ultimately come down to, is this providing property owners a reasonable means to reconstruct a damaged non-conforming use?
Okay,
And, I mean, like I said, that'd be up to 7 people in a jury box, or it'd be up to a judge. And,
well, I'll tell you what I'd like to do then. What I'd like to do then, Harley and Jason, is keep this under consideration, continue it, and next meeting, let us know whether we can. If we can, how can we do it? If we can't, because of the situation, we'll just drop it. Okay?
So keep this under old business for the next meeting?
We're gonna continue,
Yeah.
the 2 old business was continuing.
Okay.
Okay, disposition of closed public hearing. Darrell, while you were gone, I jumped the gun. We had a motion on the table to send to trustees case ZC02 as written today, as shown today. I had a motion made by Bailey and John seconded. So that's where we're at right now. I'm going back to it now. And any question on the motion to send it to the trustees for their consideration? As our recommendation to amend 6.02 K as presented today at the public hearing. We had a motion to do that. Any discussion on the motion of sending it to the commission, the trustees? I've been with the commissioners too much this time today. If not, roll call, please.
Okay, Bailey?
Yes.
Daryl?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Chairman?
Yes. Okay, case ZC03 has to do with the, proposed to add section 3108F as presented to us today. We closed the public hearing. We have now it's up to us to either, again, send it to, if we're all in agreement to send it to the trustees for their consideration, is our recommendation to revise this section by adding this 3103F, if that's what the commission wants to do. Entertain a motion to send it to the, our recommendation to the trustees as noted tonight.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Darrell to send it to the trustees as noted tonight, seconded by Bailey. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Okay, Daryl?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
And Chairman?
Yes. Okay, we have no more items for held for public hearing. Zoning inspectors report.
Well, we are staying afloat barely, but we're there. I have the new assistant starting on the 16th. So my main focus this week, up until he starts, is going to be creating some training material for him. I've recently started creating videos where I'm voiceovering, showing how to use the new software. So hopefully all of these things and all of the time that I'm putting into it now will pay off when he starts. Other than that, there's just a lot happening, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any further business to come to the Board of Commission? And all y'all at once. Okay, hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting today at, we'll be exact today, Rachel, because we know we want to be exact. 7:51. Wait a minute, hold it. 7:50, according to my, clock.
Look
Adjournment,
again, look
next
again.
meeting, September 13th, 2021.
Did I get
Sounds
that
good.
right?
Hey, and just to let you folks
Surprised we
know,
all showed up here.
just to let